Okay, am I making a video now? No, I made this nice video. I thought it was a good video, and I didn't have the audio thing clicked on. Pissed the hell out of me. Now I'm gonna just review it very quickly. This is a video on real world data. My son, I won't mention his name, he showed me this video of the CEO of Microsoft talking about how you could audit, and it was really cool. And my son is working on all this, where you can have this machine learning and Power BI. Power BI, need to learn that. I need to learn that. I'm in Pakistan, by the way. I don't know if they use it here. But I want to talk about what he didn't talk about is real world. And when I made this video, the goddamn Excel started crashing all the time. Why won't he fix it so my Excel doesn't crash? And why won't he get the spinner box so I can put a percent in? Huh? Okay. Now what we'll do here, there are a couple of graphing things. If this is our data, I don't even have my generic macros open. So these are inputs. Now if I put true here, and I just make a little if statement, and if it's true, then do. So that's how we can, whoops, or I can put true here, and then false on this one, okay? So that's one of the things that's in the data. And this data was getting stuff from Philippines. And here's what you do is I made a data compilation, and what I really wanted to show you is there are a few things. If you need a time and a date, maybe Excel 101 in the classes show you this, but you take the hour and divide it by 24. And then did I make a little example, and then here's the other example I just want to make sure you can all do is if you put a date, and then if you put an hour, and then an hour and a date, what you can do first is just have an if statement. I haven't found a better way to do this. If this thing equals 12, then make it 1, otherwise make it that plus 1, and then you can over here put an if statement, and if the date, not the date, if the period equals 1, then we take this last day plus 1, otherwise we just leave it on that last day. Press Shift Control 3, press Shift Control 3 here, and then we just take this and double click, which is not bad to use the mouse. These people won't use the mouse on this because they're so obsessed with this shit. I agree with shortcuts totally, but come on. Going down to the bottom, right click, back click, and all that crap. What a bunch of crap. And then we can take this date and then just put a plus this one divided by 24, okay? And then you can get the time and the date. And you should use a shortcut for this instead of the paintbrush ST, So then that's how you get the time and the date. Okay, and then what I did here is once we had the time and the date, this was a pain, and I went through all this data compilation and all this. Now, the other thing I really did want to show you is if you want to make a fancy conditional formatting, what you can do is go to conditional formatting, and let's just show you the rule at least. And this rule is a rule that says, well, if the month is an even month, so you take the month of this date and see if it's an even month, and you just put the $ only on the date and select the whole area. And when you do that, it will it's a way to kind of go once we get into February, I hope. Oh, come on, get there. If you're in electricity, there's 744 hours in a month, 31 and 720 and all that. I don't know how much is in a 29-day month in February or whatever, 28 days, 28 times 24 or whatever. And then we put the various, then the real issue was this guap, which you get from the Philippines website. You have no idea. You even go to the kind of put a help thing in, you can't find it. I think it's generalized something, I don't know, whatever. Weighted no, it's wholesale electric prices, and then there's a marginal price you can get. And the real issue I had was we have some of these prices for some of the periods, others for not. How do these prices all compare? So we made a graph, and I used the offset function to make the graph. And the way to make the graph is to put a little drop down box here. Now, so I won't have to review these drop down boxes. And if you put a drop down box here, you can just then find this, match this. This is just the code, and we just did it only for a month. We don't do it for like the specific day or something like that. And then, oops, it didn't have January, so let's start with February. Um, should have put, no, I can't do that. Just a minute. I was going to put the middle of the end of the month there. And then we put these true and falses to get the different graphs. That's just like this true and false thing up here. And you have to remember, put a false in for the graph really not to show up. You don't want zeros in the graph, obviously. Okay, I don't know. There might be a better way to do this with NAs or something like that. NAs probably would work too. So you get the row number by using a match on this date, which is again another, I used a lookup here. You use a match on this date against the row number in that entire detailed file we had. So this gives you the row number of February or whatever. And if you don't believe me, go and test it. And I'll put this on the website. And it's also on my new updated Google links, which are much better than they used to be. And I put zip drives on those Google link things. So you can just get it really fast. Okay, so then you can, once you do that, then you press, you make these range names. And with the range names, here's what we do. We start with A1. And then on the row number here, just subtract 1. So if you start with A1, this is the row start, and you need the length, which pretend it was 1. It's going to be the start minus the end. You know, should we even, if we have 1 month, I'm debating whether we should add 30. I don't think we should add 30. But if you have the same month, it will just give you 1 day. So really, if we want to be February to March, this is what it'll do. So this is just all it is the match function to get the row number. Okay, and we put this match function and this match function. So we did it twice, and then we put a little, with the developer tab, of course, you go into this one, and you get a little checkbox. Okay, and when you put the checkbox in, you got to do the Tatiana method, which was to go to one sheet, obviously to go to one sheet that's not a graph sheet, back to this sheet, click on the true. Okay, if you haven't seen me do that 100 times, whatever, I probably haven't, because you never watch these things really. Okay, and then you have all of these, and then what you do is you make your graph. And now what we can do is just put different things on the graph. Now here, let's go to, how about we'll go to start with January of 16. Now it doesn't know what to do. It went to, and let's go to April of 16, which happens to be the month I'm in, and I'm just going from Pakistan to Manila. And you can kind of compare the different prices. That was the idea. They were all the same. This one price, which is the marginal bid, kind of had a funny negative, so you can take that out and just compare that. So you can just have a really flexible graph that just shows the different things in the graphs. Okay, and if we just want the 1, we can show the 1, or whatever. You see that, and you can make it all flexible. That's with the offset function, and that's a flexible range names. And the way to do that is you go to the graph and go to select data, and you press edit on here, and this has to be a range name, and what you have to do is just go backwards only to the exclamation point. There's another kind of video on this. You only go to the exclamation point and do that. So this was just a video just on making a graph. And then what we do is we get this data compilation, and we decide, well, which data do we really want to take in? So we take all this data here from here to here, and here, if I save this, I'm terrified of saving this thing. It bombed all the time, so I was really, really complaining about these stupid speeches. It was a very good thing. It was a very good thing, but you got up like Steve Jobs and you say everything works out perfectly, and in the real world, it sucks. And what we're going to do now is go to I'll go to chapter 6 and do the last thing we did, and I'll just explain this since it's fresh on my mind. No, it's chapter 5, I'm sorry. Chapter 5, and then on the electricity materials, my next video, I'm going to make one, I hope. And we go to the Philippines prices, and you go, once you do that, you go to the database. So I made a database, 11 megabytes of hourly data. But the real thing you want to do with this data is you want to compare the electric price to the coal price or the gas price. And now I just went nuts about this. Philippines is building coal plants. So is Pakistan. They have virtually no coal right now. But if you want to get them to not build coal plants, why in the hell don't you get a reasonable cost of capital for these companies? Why does that Dammerdan asshole have a risk premium for Pakistan of 15%? Meaning there's a default risk of 15% in the first year. If you have 10 years, that 15% compounds to way more than 100%, suggesting 100% chance of default. And you do the same thing with the IMF and everybody else. They put these enormous, the interest rate you get in a Pakistan bank is about a credit spread of about, if after you take out the adjust for currency inflation, which would be a really big deal, it's about 1 or 2%, 2% maybe. If you go to the IMF and get a loan, you're going to pay something like 9% or sign a Shore Bank or whatever. My God, that's just outrageous, the world. Sorry, I'll get off of the track now. Now, if you have, here's what we did here, is we put into an hourly database, we put all that horrible data, very real world kind of stuff. I just had to basically put it in another sheet, copy it, and do some work with all the dates and all of that stuff. And then once we put it in that data, I wanted to compare. First of all, I want to get this in this price in USD, so you can see all these prices were 150, 50, and now the prices seem to be a little bit lower. Okay, and is that because of lower gas prices? Maybe I should make a Alt WFF. I see I use uh-oh. See, that's bad to use that. And then is it, now the coal prices are way lower than the gas prices. Why the gas price is still linked to the oil and all that. That makes gas very uneconomic compared to coal, but we want to compare basically the electricity prices to the gas prices and get a spark spread. So we got to get an exchange rate. To get an exchange rate, here's what you do. I put a little thing in, and it almost worked the last time I did it. But basically, you do the one thing, which I don't know why it's not all over the place, workbooks.open. You go to the sheet, delete the old sheet, go to workbooks.open, copy the new thing, rename the sheet that you just made as the same one, and then after you've done that, you go to the and what happens is that exchange rate data is, I had to fudge 2006. Okay, that exchange rate data, that just comes from the internet. It might be all over the place. It might be in a different row. No, it might be in a different row. Columns we keep the same. So what you do is then you just reformat this. You say, well, we need that name exchange rates, and we find that the row is on row 15. We look from 2006 to 2015 and see, there's a little extra match thing that is hard. I said match with multiple tests. You've got to make your own match function. That is actually more advanced. Okay. And then once you have that, you use the match and the indirect. And I hope my son uses match and indirect. You don't say you're a pro if match index match. You say match index indirect. Then you're a real pro. And you find that 2006 is on the column. So what you do with that match and index is just you found this row, and once you found the row, you match the column, and you go to the sheet with the indirect. That's all you're doing. You can read it, you can look at this, and then you do the same kind of thing with the column. To you match the you go to the first column. We always define it as column A, and you find out what's January, and then you have the row and the column number. And then you look in the whole sheet, from one down to whatever that one gazillion is, not really gazillion, whatever. And then you get the value. And that gives you the value of the exchange rate. We didn't have 2019. We stopped at 2016. And I had to make an adjustment if we went to zero. So I just said, take the last one if you went to zero. And then you do the same thing with the pink data that I've said a lot. This pink data, they changed the website, the link on me, those assholes. But whatever, I won't call them bad because they do give you wonderful data, so I can't complain too much about that. So you just make the same thing. It's workbook.open. You just shove it right into this sheet. With workbooks.open, you got to just look at that one little macro to see how that works. All you're doing is deleting the sheet, reading the thing, copy and pasting it into here. And once you copy it into paste, do the same kind of thing. And it's a little trickier to take these dates, reformat the dates so they look like this, and then do a lookup. We just need a lookup because it's all in order, I hope. Look up this thing and find this. I guess this is in order. And then we'll get the gas price and the coal price, and the coal price we convert to USD per MMBTU. And then we take that and we put it all into our database. So we have gas prices, coal prices, all in USD, and the electric prices. And now we can do some real analysis on our things. So that's only 17 minutes, and the original videos were kind of an hour, so that's a lot better to make a reasonable size video.